All right, good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome you back to our Team Tuesdays webinar series. My name is Kristen Lenig, and I am the Central Field Director for Special Olympics Pennsylvania. I will be your host today during this webinar. My teammate Haley Fuzak, who is our SOPA Marketing and PR Manager, will be operating the presentation. I would also like to introduce our athlete co-MC this evening, Paul Mazurowski, who is a SOPA athlete from Potter County who competes in softball. Paul is actually the athlete rep in Potter County, and he recently started his athlete rep training and is so excited to get back in person and form an athlete leadership team in Potter County.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to serve as the co-MC for tonight's Getting Your Game Face Back webinar. I would like to remind everyone that throughout this webinar, your microphones and your cameras will be muted and your videos will be disabled.
You may submit your comments in the chat box, and at the end of our presentation, we will have a brief time for questions. Now, these questions should be submitted through our Q&A box for our presenter to answer. This webinar will be recorded and posted to our SOPA YouTube channel, where you can view later and share with others.
As you all know, the purpose of this webinar series is to connect with all of you and share educational and motivational content to continue our mission. Thank you to everyone joining us tonight.
We are very happy to be talking about returning to in-person training in all sports. I know this is a very exciting time for our athletes and our coaches, as some of you have been virtually training and competing through this time. Now, Paul, I want to talk a little bit with you. I know virtual programming has been difficult up in Potter County. Can you tell us what you've been doing to stay motivated and keep your spirits up during this time?
Well, I like to watch a lot of sports. I'm a very avid hockey fan. I'm a very avid football fan, as well as baseball. All of my favorite teams are from Pittsburgh. I have a couple that are out of state, but I'll leave it at Pittsburgh. I like to go on walks a lot. I like to be outside. Outside is one of the things that I enjoy most. I mean, I don't like to be in the house very much, but I stay outside a lot. I like to run around with my two children. My son is 7 and my daughter is 18 months. They keep me on my toes, and we're always outside doing something fun.
That's good. That's good. And Paul, I'm glad to hear that you are staying active and outside a lot with your children, your whole family, and you're staying interested in sports while spending time with them. Now, can you tell us, are you excited to get back in person?
I'm thrilled to get back to, live action practices with everyone. That's where all the magic happens. That's where all the fun happens. I love being able to help other athletes get better. Like I said previously, I grew up watching baseball, so I have a lot of knowledge to pass along. I'm a team captain, well, co-captain. Denise Bindler, our athlete, what is she? The global messenger, is the head captain. I'm the co-captain. So I'm one of the team leaders, and I'm ready to get back out to everyone, person by person, to get everyone back together. It's not only going to be fun, but it will be healthy for everyone to get back to using those muscles and exercising again.
And you told me as well, Paul, that when you are back in person playing softball, your kids come and cheer you on too, right?
Every now and again, when they're able to be there, yeah, they like to come and, sometimes try to get involved. I try to keep them out of the way so they don't get hurt, though.
It'll be good to get the whole family back into softball again, right?
Well, not just my family, but all of my SOPA family as well. I don't look at everybody as just my teammates. I looked at them as my family as well.
I'm sure you do, and I'm sure other athletes do as well, Paul. We're all one big family, and everyone's excited to get back together. So tell me a little bit more why it's so important that we do get back together in person this season, even if we don't have a competition. I know for Potter County, we're going to be doing softball, and we don't have any competitions lined up. But why do you think it's so important that we still get back together?
It's about, camaraderie, getting back together and, seeing everybody you haven't seen for a while, talking to everybody, seeing what everybody's been up to, share our experiences to find out, what everybody's been doing to take and keep themselves in shape, or, keep up with practicing on their own, or, what they've done to, make sure that, they're doing everything they need to. I'm just looking forward, so looking forward to being able to see everyone again. I've missed a lot of people. I've, had a lot of good times at practices. Practices sometimes, get pretty heated. We make practice feel like it's, game style. We make it feel like as if it's a game. We try to take and we run it, as real as possible, because when it comes down to it, we like to have fun. We like to, we like to just get out there and jam it out.
And I know you guys are a very competitive team. I've seen you in competition, and I've seen you just at training. So you're very competitive.
Extremely competitive. I try to be that captain that, lights the fire around everybody and gets everybody going. I try to be the one that gets everybody fired up.
And because your team is so competitive and you're pushing so hard at practices, we know that we have to come back safely with the COVID guidelines, but also safely so that no one pushes it too hard their first time back at practice, because we've been out of practice for so long. So let's talk about that importance, because we're going to talk about that later on with our presenter tonight. So how important is it that we make sure everyone returns to their sports safely?
Well, it's extremely important that we keep everybody safe and, healthy. The last thing we want is for anybody to get hurt. We try to take and make sure that, we start with stretching and everything, that loosens up the muscles. And, from there, we move on to other things. It's just very important that we keep everybody safe and healthy, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important.
And I know, Paul, you are a great team leader. So I know the stuff that we learned tonight, that the other athletes on our call tonight will learn. I'm hoping they will all take that back to their sports teams, as I know you will as one of the captains in Potter County. So let's talk a little bit about Potter County and Special Olympics. Can you tell us what Special Olympics means to you and to Potter County?
For me personally, it gives me a place where I don't feel like I'm, a lot of the world, the way that they see things, they look at everybody, they see people with disabilities, whether it's physical or, mental, or, whatever their disability is. They look at it as, oh, they're special. Okay, we're special, but, at the end of the day, we're no different than you. We're the same as you are. To me, it gives me a place where I don't feel out of place. I don't feel that, I'm looked at that I'm different, because at the end of the day, I'm not different. I might be unique and I might be my own person, but I'm not different. I'm the same as you. It gives me a place where, we can come together, make friends, and just be happy. We're not overlooked. We're not shunned. Special Olympics has been important, especially for Potter County, because it's shown our local community that, we're here. We're willing to take and help with anything we can. Some of the people on my team are like some of the most dedicated people I've seen. I've had a couple of teammates, I've seen them out in public at like the grocery store. I watched one of my teammates actually help a lady load her groceries into a car. I watched another teammate, a lady dropped her wallet. He picked up her wallet and gave it to her. So we're very special people, but at the same time, we're no different than anybody else.
And you're important members of the community like everybody else, right?
Well, most definitely. We do some of the most amazing things around the community, but just not everybody sees it, but we do our best to make sure that everybody notices.
And we're so excited to get together and get back in person soon to keep showing Potter County how amazing our athletes are. So, Paul, let's get this webinar kicked off here in honor of our return to in-person sports. Tonight's webinar is going to focus on getting your game face back, getting your body ready for practices, and safely resuming rigorous training.
It is now my pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Frank Velasquez Jr. He is the director of the Allegheny Health Network Sports Performance Program. He will be joining our webinar to cover those topics. Frank started his career as a minor league baseball athletic trainer before transitioning into a strength and conditioning coach and working in Major League Baseball for more than 15 years with the Texas Rangers and my favorite team, of course, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Frank, I'm so excited to take and hear your story and some of your other stories. I personally have a strong connection to the Pirates as I went to my first Pirates game at 3 days old. I don't know if there's anybody else you can take and say that, but my grandfather was just an absolute diehard Pirates fan. And it's not every day that you get to meet someone who's actually worked with your favorite team. To me, that's like the most exciting thing here besides getting back to live practices and seeing all my friends.
All right, we'll welcome Frank on the call.
Hey, gang.
Hi.
Hi, Frank Velasquez here. Let me see if I can start my screen share. Let me see here. It is a pleasure to be here. Kristen and Haley and the gang, thank you. And Paul, thank you for that gracious introduction. I do agree that you may have been the youngest bucko in the stands, maybe in the history of the Pirate baseball. But again, awesome that you guys get together on these Tuesdays, and I'm a big fan and a big supporter of the Special Olympics Pennsylvania. I've done some of the what's the program that we had during the pandemic? The Fit to
or Fitness Heptathlon?
No, the first one.
Commit to Fit.
Commit to Fit. Yeah, I did some videos with my son for Commit to Fit, and it was a ton of fun. So again, big supporter, and just listening to you guys talk and where we're at now coming out of the pandemic. I'm hoping that you have a notebook and a pencil and you can take some notes as coaches and athletes and parents about some of the things that you may want to focus on over the next 2 to 4 weeks before you start your in-person training back with your respective teams. I would like to thank Highmark. Highmark is a great supporter of the Special Olympics PA as well as Special Olympics National, along with AHN. A little bit about me. Whenever I'm in an audience, I always like to know, about the speaker and what qualifies them to be speaking to me. So Paul gave me that great introduction. So, I'm born and raised in the state of Michigan. I graduated from the University of Michigan. I started in physical therapy as an outpatient athletic trainer. While I was trying to get into pro baseball, I was blessed to get in with the Texas Rangers in 1996. Spent 7 years with them as an athletic trainer and made my conversion over to the strength side, and ended up here in Pittsburgh in 2003. I spent 9 seasons as their major league strength coach, and we've been in here in Pittsburgh for a long time, since 2003. My last year was 2011. I opened up my own business up in Cranberry, PA, and I ran that. It was called Vesla 360. And after about 5 years of that, I came on with the Allegheny Health Network. One of the feathers in my cap is that I was the strength coach for Team USA in 2017 when we won the gold medal during the World Baseball Classic. So that is my story in a nutshell. AHN Sports Performance and Physical Therapy. We are all the experience I had working with collegiate and professional athletes. We took those services and we made them available to the community, to the people, the masses, active adults, developing youth, athletes of all levels, from physical therapy and sports medicine to strength training, speed and agility, and even how to recover. Because everyone's so busy, we have a whole line of recovery services that we do at our facilities with Allegheny Health Network Sports Performance. Right now we have 2 facilities, one in Wexford, PA, in the North Hills, and one in Bethel Park in the South Hills. And we are building one on the west side of the city in Coriopolis in partnership with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. We are blessed to have outstanding facilities for our athletes and clients to train out of, and it's just a ton of fun. So we're thankful every day. Our mission is to educate. We educate everyone that comes through our doors, and we work to build more durable bodies that will withstand the rigors of their sport and life in general. And our goal is to help our people reach optimal performance. The body is very resilient. It will work around different restrictions and inefficiencies, but our goal is to help everyone do what they want to do better. So as we get into the nuts and bolts, the fun stuff, we're going to talk about coming out of this pandemic, our return to play, return to full activity, the things we need to consider to help, number one, reduce the risk of injury, and number two is to help prepare us so we can really enhance and do great at our sports. So during the pandemic, there was a lot of inactivity. There was some boredom. There was, we had lapses in our nutrition and how we ate. We sat a lot. We had work from home. We had school from home. It was a stressful time. It was a stressful time for all of us, and there was a time of uncertainty. So knowing all that, we are hopefully on the backside of this now. Coming out of the pandemic, we really recommend that everyone, before they get into a higher level of activity, program, whether it be organized or on your own, that you get your physical. Okay, if you haven't gotten a physical in the last year, get to your PCP and just have them check out your old ticker and make sure that everything's moving right, so that nothing's changed over the last year, and you can really put yourself in a position to succeed, to have fun, to be healthy, and to stay on the field or the court or whatever your arena is. So we start with the physical. We're going to talk about all these in a little bit of detail: the warm-ups, flexibility, movement, activations, what we call baseline strength, higher level strength training for those that want that information, our cardio fitness tidbits, stride sprints and bursts, change of directions, sport specificity, wellness best practices, and finally mindfulness. Okay, we can't forget our most important tool, which sits in between our ears. So we're going to go over these in a little bit of detail with each slide. So before we get into that, we're firm believers, whether I'm training Andrew McCutcheon or I'm training my guy Paul here, or a plumber or an electrician, we feel that we're all front-sided animals. That means that life is in front of us. We do very little behind our back. So it leads to this rounded posture. There are cell phones out there now and tablets, and we're texting, we're playing video games, and we eat and we reach for things, and we drive and we drink, and everything's in front of us. So you start to see this rounded shoulders here and this poor posture, and we kind of start to accept that as being normal, when really we want to be here and more upright. So we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but we are front-sided animals, so we need to focus on the backside of our body. This is one of my favorite slides. This shows what we call the kinetic chain. It is our body made up of bones, muscles, tendons, ligaments. It's very graceful. It's very beautiful, but they call it a chain. I saw this picture. It had the chain that was together, and it had the muscles and tendons. And then the picture below it had the chain busting. So if we put too much force on an area that's not ready to take on that force, that's what happens. That's when we have pulled muscles, broken bones, strained ligaments, tears. So our goal is to help reduce the risk of that chain from snapping, and making sure we're flexible in the right places, we're strong in the right places, we can do the movements that we're going to ask our body to do, and we're in good condition cardiovascularly, so we can really put ourselves in a position to have some fun and to really succeed. I know I've been part of several Special Olympics events, and it's very competitive, and just listening to Paul, I was getting fired up. So we want to make sure that you guys are in a position to do your best and to win. So this is the kinetic chain. Common ailments, like what are we seeing a lot of in our facility coming out of the pandemic? Low back pain, knee tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis. Some of these, when I do too much, too fast, the tendon starts barking a little bit, says, hey, I'm not really ready to do this, and you start having pain. And of course, that rounded shoulders, those are the ones that I highlighted: low back pain, tendonitis, and rounded shoulders. These are some of the common injuries and ailments that we're seeing from our clients, and society coming out of this pandemic. So as we get into the warm-up, very important. I learned a long time ago from one of the pioneer strength coaches in my industry that you don't stretch to warm up, you warm up to stretch. So before you get out there to stretch, my muscles need to be warm. So we want you to break a sweat. That's our thing. Before you pick up with a softball, before you pick up, the tennis racket, or you start running sprints, I need you to break a sweat. So how do we do that, Frank? You can do it several ways. You can go out and jog a little bit. You can get on a stationary bike. You can do some up downs. There's a lot of ways you can do it with very little to no equipment. Just running up and down the driveway or doing a lap around the neighborhood. But you want to break a sweat and raise your heart rate before you get into higher levels of activity. So it doesn't mean you're going to go out and sprint. That's not what I'm talking about. Low level, get moving, get the blood flowing, break a sweat. Today, at least in Pittsburgh, it's very easy to break a sweat. Go sit outside in 90-degree weather, and believe me, in 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to be beaten with sweat. But that's our goal here. You remember this, you don't stretch to warm up, you warm up to stretch, okay? Soft tissue mobilization. So I'm a big believer in this thing right here. It's called a foam roll, okay? And you can see a picture of one of my old coaches rolling out their body parts. So I believe that every house in America should have a foam roll. It looks like just a log. It's about 3 foot. They come in 2 foot or 1 foot. It's just foam, and you roll your body on it. So we want to roll out the front side of our body. I roll out my back. I roll out any body part you can roll out, and it's kind of like a self massage. Instead of going and get a massage from a therapist, you can get a foam roll, or you can get a lacrosse ball or a golf ball, and just roll your feet over these things to help bring circulation to the tissue. It'll help bring some neural stimulation to the tissue. After we warm up, we'd like to do our soft tissue mobilization using simple tools like the foam roll, okay? After we mobilize, we stretch. So we talked about us being front-sided animals. We really want to stretch that front side out, okay? I put these pictures on here. This is a simple sideline stretch for the front of my quads. I can do a kneeling hip flexor stretch. I like taking the leg over for a nice low back stretch. This picture here with the big ball. This is another piece of equipment that I like, that we really recommend every house have, is a big exercise ball filled with air, and you can just lay on it, okay? You can lay on it with your chest, your arms hanging, opening your chest up, opening your hips up. And I put this last picture down here because this is kind of a no-no. We don't like to stretch a ton of hamstrings. We stretch them lightly, but not really intense. Remember, we want to strengthen the back side of the body, that hamstrings and butt, and our posture muscles, and we want to open up the front side. So remember, when you stretch and you foam roll, you want to do more on the front than the back to help combat all this front side activity we have all day. Movement, okay? We need to be able to move to get into our specific sports, whether I'm running track or throwing the shot and discus, or doing softball or soccer or basketball. We have to be able to move. So some simple movements. I'm going to talk about the hip hinge. That's kind of the universal athletic stance. I talked a little bit about leg over the midline. When you're lying on your back, you can take the leg over, and I want to go back. This one right here, where you take one leg over, you grab the opposite hand and pull the leg, take the leg over the midline of the body. That's a very good movement, and it'll help keep your back nice and flexible. Inchworms and bear crawls, okay? Bear crawls are just like we did when we were babies. You start to crawl, and we do them as adults, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. A lot of people have not bear crawled in a long time. And then we do some inchworms as well, where we're in a push-up position and we walk our legs in so our butt's up in the air, and then we walk our arms out. And then we walk our legs in and we walk our arms out. It looks like an inchworm going across the floor. We also like to do some deep squats with our hands over our head. I have some pictures of all this here. So this is our hip hinge. If you stick your butt out and chest out and just take your upper body down, you can see how our infielder looks like in that hip hinge position, our middle linebacker for football and our starting guard for basketball. This is a very universal movement or position for our athletes. So we want to teach those how to do this hip hinge. I guarantee all of you are doing it in your respective sports as well. So you can practice that one on your own. The other movements, here's this one is that deep squat with your hands over your head, a cat and cow, an angry cat with the rounded back, and I guess a cow with the sunken back. But these are all simple movements that, again, that require no equipment, that it's really good to do to help loosen up the joints and, again, get us in a position to do some good things. I'm going to play this video. I don't know if I can. Yeah. It's about 1 minute long. These are simple movements here that we like. This is the lunge walk. You'll go step, lightly touch the knee to the ground and step up. This is a crossover drop, or we call it karaoke drop step. Foot in front drop, foot in back drop. And then you do it the opposite way, okay? With the opposite leg leading. Foot in front drop, foot in back drops. Good coordination, and it really helps to open up the hips. Here's our inchworm that I was talking about. Okay, you walk the arms out and you walk the legs in. And you walk the arms out and you walk the legs in. Okay, and it looks like that inchworm crawling across the turf there. A reverse lunge with rotation. Okay, reverse lunge and you rotate to the opposite side that you step. Reverse lunge and you rotate to the opposite side. And we do 3 to 5 reps of each of these, okay? And the final one is our deep squat with the hands overhead. We call it a reboot. You'll touch your toes, get down deep into that squat, arms over the head, and then you stand. So these are all great movements, and it really, again, helps to complete your warm-up before you get into your activation exercises. So we call that movement preparation. Before I get into the next slides, I want to talk about the feet. The feet are very important. The one I highlighted here is making sure that we spend some time walking in our bare feet at the house, okay? You think if you always have shoes on, you're kind of suffocating your feet. You are almost, it's like going around with gloves on all day long. You start to lose some touch and feel properties. Our feet are just like our hands. So spend some time and let those feet breathe a little bit, and make sure you have good, proper shoes on before you get into your activities, whether it's soccer spikes or running shoes, making sure that they're new and ready to go for you. Our activation exercises, these are some using equipment, very little equipment. That's a couple bucks. We call these ankle bands. And you put them around your ankles or your knees, and you do some different walks. You can see our kid here doing it. And these exercises are designed to exercise that butt muscle, okay, your glutes. If you don't have any bands, anything you do on one leg, if you just stand and balance, it's going to work that glute out. So that's an area we want to exercise and turn on and get strong to help protect our hip and our knees. Our posture muscles we talked about earlier. You know, we want to look more like this with good posture. Paul, this is one of our Pirate pictures I took a picture of when I was with the Pirates during my time. And you can see his muscular back. You know, we really focus on those back muscles, doing more pulls than pushes and focusing on those muscles you really can't see in the mirror. We want to improve our posture. That's one of our objectives with all of our clients and athletes, is making sure we're sitting upright and not rounded shouldered and forward head. Couple of exercises for our posture is, you know, using any kind of TheraBand or TheraTubing. You just hold it out with your palms up like so. You can see my palms. You're going to pinch your shoulder blades and pull that tubing to your forehead, and you can drop down and pull it to your chest and your belt. And that's what we call our 4 positions. There are different exercises you can do that'll help improve that posture and our scapular mobility. Our core, okay, that's everything between our ribs and our thighs. That's our engine block, okay? We build high performance engines, and we can't do that if our block is cracked. So everyone, I'm sure, has done a plank before, okay? Planks are great. You don't need any equipment. You can do them anywhere, but they're not very functional. Paul, I'm sure on your softball team, there's nothing you do on a softball field that looks like a plank. So that is where we start, team. That's where we start doing if you can do a minute plank, great. If you can't, start at 15 seconds, 10 seconds, and build your way up to that minute. We don't go over a minute. You know, I read articles and people say, oh, on YouTube, I saw a guy do a 5-minute plank. Well, that's great, but 1 minute's all we need. It'll get that core nice and strong, and we can do side planks as well. But when you really get good at the plank, then you stand up and we start doing some we call 3-dimensional exercises with the medicine balls, with our cables, chops and lifts and rotations and throws, because those are the movements, team, that's gonna transfer best to the sport you're gonna play. Okay, so very important, this area in between our ribs and our thighs, to help protect our low back and really tie everything together. Okay, foundation strength. Okay, this is a simple strength program using just that tubing and ankle bands and this big exercise ball, you know, our clams and our scapular tubing, our planks, hamstring curls and bridges, a one-legged RDL, working on the neck a little bit so we're strong and reduce the risk of those concussions. And we do this twice a week. You know, this is $20 worth of equipment that we can really work coming out of the pandemic to do some easy, low level, but very effective strength training to protect our very important areas of the body to get us ready for more activity. Higher level strength training, if I'm going to follow a regimented program, I'm going to do it for about 4 weeks. 2 days is enough, team. 2 days is enough. Sometimes if you want, you get that third day in, but 2 days is enough. You're going to combine that with some skill work and some rest days, and that's plenty. So, you know, one day might be a little heavier, a little harder. The next time you go out, it's going to be a little lighter, you know, a little easier. They don't all have to be super hard, okay? After 4 weeks, you give yourself what we call a deload week, where it's kind of like a recovery week. You might just do some easy activity, but no designed or intense workouts. If you're going to follow a higher level strength program, we want you to foam roll and you're going to activate. You'll do your movement drills. You'll do your strength training. We'll do your anaerobic fitness and your cool down activity. This is the recipe for someone that's going to strength train at higher levels. Okay, this is a little bit higher than the foundation one we just talked about. And then finally on the strength piece, we talk about risk versus reward. As a strength coach, I believe there are no bad exercises, but now there are some exercises that really aren't good for basketball players, or exercises that really aren't good for my soccer players or track athletes or baseball players. So you want to make sure that you're not doing some exercises that could be putting you in harm's way or really detracting from what you want to do, you know, in your Olympic event. So not every exercise is good. Doesn't mean it's bad altogether, but it's maybe not the best for you. So we want to help you figure those things out as well. Very important, you know, most of our sports need to run. So you want to make sure you're getting your agility in and your sprints and maybe a little bit of plyometric jumping. Nothing crazy, but learning how to jump onto that box again, or broad jumps, or just jumping up and down. It doesn't need to be real fancy, but these are some things that we talk about that we need to be able to do. You know, we talked about the warm up and the soft tissue mobilization, our movement drills, our activations. Now running, change of direction, and developing that power so you can hit those home runs, Paul, when the game's on the line. You know, we got to have the power in the tank. Let's see here. A little bit of equipment. Again, we've kind of been talking about this. If you can get yourself a foam roll or a big exercise ball, or I know Paul talked about it, go outside. You know, find a rock to pick up, or a log, or flip a tire that you have hanging around the yard. It's just sitting there collecting water. Help you know, your family mulch. There's a lot of things you can do without any equipment at all. But if you do have the opportunity, you know, this level one just your own body weight, get yourself a foam roll, a couple of bands, some tubing in this big exercise ball, and we can make you a really nice program. Cardio fitness, you have two types of cardio fitness. Number one is aerobic. That's low intensity, long duration. So if Kristen and I were going to go take an easy jog and talk and catch up, that's aerobic activity. We're going to go out, run a couple miles and just real low. It's conversational pace, we call that. On the contrary, anaerobic is high intensity, short duration. So if we were going to go out then and go and run gassers, we're going to run 90 feet back and forth 2 or 3 times. Our heart rate's going to get high, okay? And then we're going to stop and we're going to have a walk recovery where that heart rate comes back down. We call that heart rate training. It is a great way to train, team. So we want to sprinkle both of these in your weekly plan. Maybe get out and ride the bike a little bit, walk the dog, have that aerobic component, and then maybe do some short sprints, some back and forths, okay? Up and down the driveway or on the sidewalk to get your heart rate up, because our number one muscle in our body is our heart. So, we like to do the biceps and the chest and the the abs and our big legs, but we can't forget about the one that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while we're sleeping, while we're awake. That little bugger's working inside of our chest. So we want to make sure we give it its due. So don't forget your cardio fitness. Then we get into the fun stuff. Okay. We talked about movement and activations and strength. You got to get into your sport specificity. So if you're working the track or shot put or, on the ice, or you want to make sure you're doing some of this before you get to your team practices. That's as specific as you can get. That way your body is now in position to start doing the movements and you really start having fun. This is the fun stuff. Not too many people like to train, but they love to play. So this is playtime and this is part of training. You want to make sure as you come out of the pandemic that you are doing some of what you like to do, playing catch, shooting hoops, running your sprints, doing your aerial, all the activities that they have for you. I can't neglect talking about our wellness habits. Now, these are things, team, that we have to do every day. You don't have to go train with Frankie V, and you don't have to go practice with Paul, but we have to eat, drink, and sleep. So we want to do those things as good as we can. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. Number one is hydration. It's so important, team. You can't get caught without your hydration, okay? Water is number one. Make no mistake about it. It's the best drink on the planet, and we have to drink early and often. I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I start my hydration, and I drink all day long, okay? You never want to be caught without it. You might be in a traffic jam in the middle of the city or just, stuck in a meeting. Always have fluids on you. Now, as good as water is, it can't be everything. As an athlete, we sweat, okay? And we lose electrolytes. That's why sports drinks are so important. You want to make sure you're getting your electrolytes in. If you don't want to drink them, you can eat them. Bananas, very high in potassium. All your salty foods, pretzels or crackers, or you can even salt your food a little more. Got to make sure you're getting these electrolytes in. We want to help reduce the risk of dehydration. Okay, it's super hot right now. It's getting hot here in the PA area. All parts of the country. Check your pee color. It's a really easy way. You might think it's goofy, but it's a really easy way to check your hydration levels. If my pee is clear or light yellow, like this 1, 2, maybe 3, I'm in a good place. If it looks like 6 or 7, or God forbid 8, like apple juice, that means that I'm low on fluids and I got to hydrate up. Really easy thing to do, team. Check your pee color, drink early and often. Nutrition, I keep it real simple. I'm not a dietitian, okay, or a nutritionist, but we know a lot about it as strength coaches. Number one is we eat breakfast. We never skip breakfast. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be, a glass of orange juice and a piece of toast. It could be cold pizza from the night before. It really doesn't matter as long as you get something in your system within 1 hour after waking up, okay? After breakfast, team, we preach meal frequency. Every 3 to 4 hours, we're putting something little into our system. We call it grazing, like a cow out in the pasture. we kind of eat a little bit all day long. That way we're never starving. We're never starving hungry. And it really helps to keep your blood sugar levels at a nice constant level. The 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, team, we want it to look like this: colorful fruits and veggies. I know it's not really, sometimes doesn't taste the best, but you want it to be 80% whole grains, fruits, veggies, lean meats, chicken, fish. 20% of the time, man, I love cheeseburgers and pizza and chicken wings and ice cream, and it tastes so good, but we can't eat that all the time. Okay, you have to understand 80-20. The last thing I want to talk about here is understand this, that food is your energy. We do not get energy from energy drinks. Okay, energy drinks are just laced with caffeine and other stimulants that you don't want to have that be your source of energy. So remember that food is the gas for the car to go. This is our car, and food is the gas that's going to make the body go. Okay. And then finally, our sleep and recovery, 8 to 10 hours a night. Don't cheat yourself. Don't stay up playing Fortnite to the wee hours of the morning. Get your sleep, especially if you know you have a workout the next day or you have a team practice. Team, when we sleep, that's when our body recovers. So make sure you're getting your sleep in so you're really good to go and you're able to compete at your best. Mindfulness, okay, this is, again, ways to take care of our brain. The number one thing there, team, is to unplug. Spend some time during your day away from your cell phones, away from the TV, away from your laptops, and just listen. Let your senses, let your eyes work, let your ears work. Go out for a nice walk. I do it when I have dinner. I put it away. That way I have a dinner. I'm focused on my family. You spend that time. We call it being unplugged. And that just helps your brain to rest and kind of come back to a nice level homeostasis. So in summary, get your physical. Make sure you're breaking a sweat before you pick up your ball or your racket or your hockey stick, whatever you're doing. Get yourself a foam roll and work on, rolling out the front of your body and stretching out the front of your body. Do the different movements, inchworms and the bear crawls and the leg overs and all those simple things that require no equipment. Learn the activations. Get yourself some bands and tubing. Okay, spend a couple bucks on some bands and tubing. That you can do those baseline strength drills that we talked about. If you are going into a weight room with a personal trainer or a coach, for higher level training, make sure you seek out an expert's opinion. If you want us to look at your program, we'll be happy to do that, help critique it for you. Don't forget your number one muscle, your cardio fitness. Get your sprints and your legs in running shape. Have fun with your sports. Practice all your wellness habits, and definitely, make sure you're unplugging a little bit and really taking care of your brain. This is my email. Okay, if you have any questions, I think we have a little time for Q&A. Kristen, I hope I didn't put everyone to sleep and talk too much. We can shoot some questions now, or you guys can email me some questions if you'd rather do that. But I'm all ears, man. Here we go.
All right. Thank you so much, Frank. We learned a lot tonight. Thank you so much for going over a wide variety of everything. I will say, I think you've convinced me I need to go out and get my foam roller today.
Yeah.
It was great to learn about all the things we can do to protect our bodies from injury and get them ready for our upcoming training and competition season in person.
That's what it's about.
Back to you, Paul.
Most definitely. I know I'm excited to get my body ready for softball and get it ready for, even if we're not doing, regular games this summer, at least getting it ready to, go out and have a little bit of fun and, get back with my teammates. At this time, we would like to allow questions for Frank. You can submit those questions in the Q&A box, and Kristen would read them out aloud. If it's okay, I wouldn't mind asking a few questions myself for Frank. My very first question has to be, what is your favorite moment working with the Pittsburgh Pirates? Like, if you could think of one, what was your favorite moment working with the Pirates?
Oh, wow. I've had so many, Paul. Opening day my first year, but really opening day every year is so special. If it comes to one game, we beat the Cleveland Indians in 2003. It was an extra inning game, and Brian Giles went up over the fence to rob a home run. And we came into the bottom of that inning and were able to scrape a run across, and we won in 12 innings. That's probably my most favorite. And that was my first year, my rookie year.
I actually remember that game. I actually watched that game. That was one heck of a catch that he robbed. I mean, that was definitely something.
Let's see here. I see.
Paul, wait, Frank, before we go to the next question, do you mind stopping to share so we can see your face a little bigger?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to see my big face, but all right. So a question from Bobby Wren. What type of exercise would be good for tennis? So that's a great question, Bobby. Tennis is an overhead sport, just like my baseball, what we did with our baseball players. So for tennis, overhead sport, meaning, let me see here if I can minimize this, that we spend time up here. So tennis, you're working all over, but you do your serves overhead. So we work a lot of the rotator cuff, okay? A lot of the posture exercises we talked about, getting yourself a piece of tubing like this and pulling, okay, to the different levels, your forehead, your chest, your belt, and improving your posture. And that's going to help your rotator cuff work in your shoulder. So those are two key areas. We work forearm and grip. So I do some different squeezing exercises to help me grip that tennis racket. And then, of course, we work our lateral movement and moving forward, practice moving backwards, moving left, moving right, because we need a lot of agility and body control to play tennis. So those are the key areas that we look for with our tennis players. Another question. Is yogurt part of nutrition? Yes, it is. Yogurt is a dairy product, okay? And I personally eat plant-based yogurt, so it's made with almond milk. It's got a little less fat in it, and it's less cream. But yogurt is a great source of dairy, a great source of vitamin D, and it's a great protein. So we need yogurt to help us repair our muscles like proteins do. And it is a big part. It could be a big part of a nice breakfast or a snack throughout the day. Let's see. Can we get a copy of this PowerPoint? I think this is being recorded, right, Kristen?
It is.
So yes, you can always go back to the recording. It's hard for me to share the PowerPoint because there's so many pictures and videos in it. It's hard to send in an email. But I'm glad you guys are recording it, so you can always refer back to it. Do you have any advice for alpine skiers and kayakers? Skiers, yes. All the glute exercises I talked about with the little bands working on your butt, the different walks, anything on one leg, okay, is great for our skiers. And kayakers, also working on the core and our back muscles, okay, because it's almost like a rower. So you want to work on those posture muscles. What types of workouts are good for soccer? Again, taking care of that knee and hip, a lot of one-legged exercises, reverse lunges, forward lunges, box step-ups, sled pushes if you have a sled. Anything on one leg is great for soccer, really stabilizing. That'll help reduce the risk of the injuries. And then your agility and anaerobic activities, getting your heart rate up and down, because that's what soccer is a ton of running in soccer. I'm glad you play it because I would probably fall over if I played soccer. Not like baseball, right, Maz? Okay, Let's see. What type of exercise would be good for unified bocce ball? We actually saw a bocce event at our Cool Springs facility. I like a lot of core exercises, so doing our planks and our side planks, and also working our forearms and rotator cuff for bocce ball. I think I'm saying that right. Bocce ball. Bocce ball. So yeah, so those are some of our tips here. Any other questions, team?
Yeah, Paul has a couple more, right?
Yes, I actually have a couple of questions. recently I tore my meniscus in my right knee, and one of the things that I wanted to know was what are some things that you could do to recommend that for an athlete who's had a previous injury to help him avoid any further injuring of that previous injury, and making helping to recuperate it so that it comes back stronger and better than ever.
So a lot of the stuff I talked about, Paul, even if it's a knee, I'm working on my core, I'm working on my posture, I'm doing all those one-legged exercises, my butt, my hamstring. Get yourself a big exercise ball and a pair of bands, and shoot me an email, and I can shoot you over a little program to follow at home that'll help make sure that that knee's nice and stable. As a strength coach and athletic trainer, as a strength coach, we try to keep you healthy, but injuries happen. We all know that. Now, as an athletic trainer and rehab specialist, our goal is to make you take the time needed to heal and do the right things to get you back on the field stronger than ever, so that we don't have a repeat injury. That is like the number one thing we don't want, is that repeat injury of the same injury. So I hope that helps out a little bit, give you an idea of the things, the core, posture, the glute stability, being real strong on one leg, practicing your infield work and things like that before game time comes.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I have just one other question, because the other question I can't, I'm not really going to ask it because you've already covered like the whole thing. So my last question would be, what can I do as the co-captain to help my teammates prepare for the next season and get them, ready to go?
As
like what would be some
that's a great
that I could take and say and do to help get them interested in wanting to take and get ready.
Sure. I would be a positive influence on them, a lot of encouragement, and lead by example, doing the proper warm-ups and the activations, and be willing to share your programs. Like, hey, here's my email, team, and if you guys if you don't have something to follow on your own, I'd be happy to share you what I'm going to do. Be that really team leader. It's going to take everybody in and be the glue in the off season.
Very good. Is there any other questions, anybody? Don't be shy. I mean, we're here to help. We're here to talk.
Yeah, we have some more in the hopper. These are all really good questions. So we have another one here. Do you have advice for equestrians? I do. A lot of core strengthening. So our planks and our side planks, a lot of forearm and neck. Okay. Just a simple exercise like this. I don't need anything. I'm just pushing my head into my neck, all 4 directions. Do about 5 reps, hold them 3 seconds apiece. Why is it so important to exercise my neck as an equestrian? Because I may fall off that horse. And if I do, I know I'm wearing a helmet, but the stronger my neck is, it protects my brain. So it really helps to reduce the risk of a concussion. That's what's scary about a horse. A horse is a big animal it's like a race car, and you can't control it. So you really want to be strong in the core, the forearms, and the neck area. Let me see. I want to start small hand weight lifting. What weight should I start with? I would start with 2 water bottles. Something super simple. If you don't have weights at home, get 2 cans of veggies or 2 water bottles, 2 objects that weigh the same, and you can start your exercises there. It's less than a pound, and then you can build up to a 1 pound, 1.5, 2 pounds. But it's nice you start light and go from there. And you don't need to go out and buy exercise equipment. Just pick 2 objects that weigh the same that are in your cupboards. I have trouble doing core exercises. Help me find an easy core exercise. One of the most simple things we can do, Kelsey, is that plank. If a plank is too hard, we can do a modified plank. Okay. So instead of your feet and your forearms being on the ground, you can bend your knees so your feet are up in the air and your knees are on the ground. So it's your knee is your focal point along with your forearms. That makes it a little easier. Okay, that's a great way. And again, doing it for 10, 20, 30 seconds is all you need, and you're going to start working that core. If you want, reach out to me in an email. I can send you some really easy videos of a couple other things we can do, but we want to make sure we're working that core. Can you talk about the importance of exertion during workouts? How can athletes motivate themselves to push themselves to their physical and mental limit? I think everyone has a little something inside of them. It's heart and it's guts. You want to be careful. Sometimes we try to cash checks that our body's not ready to be able to deliver on. So when you talk about exertion, we like to go on the preserved, or how do you say it? The PRS, the perceived perceived exertion scale. So if I was out with Paul and we're doing a workout, and Kristen, there's 3 of us, and we're doing the same workout, and I say, Kristen, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you say? How hard is this for you? She goes, oh, it's a 5. It's about halfway. It's kind of medium. And I asked Paul the same question. He says, I kind of have that at a 6 or a 7. It's a little harder for me. And then me, I say, oh, wow, that's a 9. So 3 different people, same routine, it affects their bodies in different ways. So I like using that scale. Whatever you do and you're working out, if it's an 8, okay, 8 or 9, that's really strong. I don't try to go over that. That's going to really condition your heart. But I don't want my workouts to always be 8s or 9s. You need to sprinkle in some of those lighter workouts that are 2s and 3s. Okay, they're lower intensity. You're still making yourself better, but you're really not hitting it hard. Because if you feel you're weak with intense, you're gonna have a hard time recovering, and you're gonna be tired, and you may lead to overuse and injury. So we don't want that. My question is a good exercise for volleyball. Okay, volleyball is another overhead sport, so we want to make sure we include our scaps and our rotator cuff. And our real special one for volleyball, Alice, is jumping and landing. Okay, because you do a lot of jumping and landing. You want to make sure that you know how to jump, and more importantly, you know how to land. So when I land, I don't want my knees to come together. They need to stay the same as my hips. Jump, and you can do this at home. Jump and land, and see how your knees land, the stability of your legs. Okay, so we call that jump training. You can jump off one leg, jump off 2 legs, land on 1 leg, land on 2 legs. You can do it in your living room, do it outside before you get out to practice. What about rhythmic gymnastics? Ooh, that's out of my. I have no rhythm. 2, I'm not a gymnast. Kidding aside, I was the athletic trainer for the University of Michigan men's gymnastics team a long time ago, and I did help train these guys. So we do a ton of rotator cuff work. I do a ton of low back, core work, a lot of hip stability, knee stability, because gymnasts are always pounding their legs and knees and their low back, and they're always on 1 leg, and they're amazing athletes. So we kind of hit a little bit of everything. And of course, your skill, your sport-specific skill is very important as well. Do you like HIIT, and does strength work help your heart? This is a very good question. Is it Regine Theodore Wise? HIIT means high intensity training. Okay, so I'm talking to we have an experienced person here, Kristen, on the call. High intensity training it's an advanced form of training, and it is very good for your heart. It is heart rate training. So I do like it, but I like to sprinkle it in throughout my week. I'm not doing 4 or 5 HIIT workouts. I might do 1 or 2 with some low level work, some recovery work in between. So.
All right, Frank, we have one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up here. The last question is for coaches. Now, you got a nice ball rolling here with a lot of questions from athletes from every different sport, it sounded like. But can you give us a general way for coaches in any of these sports, how they can stay up to date on health and wellness and nutrition and exercises and things like that? What's a good way for our coaches to stay educated on these type of topics, besides by watching our video over and over, right?
Sure. 1, you have my email. Okay, I will always be a resource for you all. Number 2, I'm a big fan of the National Strength and Conditioning Association. Okay, the NSCA. They have a great website that's open. You don't have to be a member to see it. Also, I'm a senior advisor for the PBS-CCS. So it's a Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Association. It is not only baseball specific. We put a lot of information up there that is applicable to all sports. So I would say the NSCA, the PBS CCS, which is, I think their website's called baseballstrength.org. And then the Journal of Strength and Conditioning as well. I think those are 3 great resources that you can use online for research, evidence-based research articles. And then again, you can always email Frankie V, and I'll do the best I can to give you some good direction.
Very well, very well. All right, well, thank you everyone for the wonderful questions. Thank you once again to Frank for joining us tonight. Before we finish up the webinar, I do have an announcement to share. The August Team Tuesdays presentation will be our last webinar in this series. We do want to thank everyone who has tuned into these webinars for the past 1.5 years. We have appreciated all of your support as we have gone on this journey together. So while the ending of Team Tuesdays is bittersweet, we can share that our new talk show, SOPA Tonight, which kicked off during our virtual summer games, will be launching its 2nd season in September. All right, Paul, let's wrap up this webinar.
Thanks, team. Good luck.
Oh, Paul, you're muted. Can you unmute, bud? Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, for coming out. We appreciate you, giving us your time and, being here to help us. This concludes our team meeting, our Team Tuesdays webinar. Our next webinar will be on Tuesday, July 20th at 7 p.m. We thank everyone for coming. We thank everyone for watching, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for everyone joining tonight. Have a great night.